It's Wolf, and I'm going to tell you guys about some spin off games. Now, personally, I really like spin off video games because I think that it lets developers go and do something that they wouldn't usually be able to do with an established story or setting or characters. And there's been some really cool stuff that has come out of this idea of spinning stuff off. Now, before I get into this list, I want to clarify that when I say spooky, I don't necessarily mean actual horror because a lot of these have zombies or vampires, and I didn't want to make like two separate lists, but they aren't all necessarily scary. They all sort of do some sort of idea of horror, even if they aren't directly there to like jump scare you and stuff. So there's that. Also, these aren't presented in too much of a specific order, although they're kind of least favorite to favorite, but that's just like they're all kind of tied in some way, really. So they're not really in a superset order. So first up, and so that means sort of worst kind of all the games that I'm going to talk about today, because this one didn't really get great press or reviews, is Yakuza Ninja Gaiden Z. This game is kind of a spin-off of Ninja Gaiden, but not really. It has it in the name, but in a lot of ways it isn't really like any other Ninja Gaiden games. I actually haven't played other Ninja Gaiden games, so I'm not sure, but I have seen videos of them and stuff, and it doesn't look super similar. So in this game, you play as a cyborg ninja, and you fight zombies. To be honest, I haven't actually really played it very much. This clip of gameplay playing is literally 6 minutes because I didn't feel like spending time to like get past this part, and I got kind of stuck on it. So I will say though that I think this game sort of suffers a lot from the whole thing of it has Ninja Gaiden in the title, so people were angry that it wasn't a perfect Ninja Gaiden game, because it actually is pretty fun, even though it's kind of stupidly challenging and the story doesn't make much sense and it isn't really like Ninja Gaiden at all. I think that if you give it enough time and you kind of keep it out of your mind of it being a Ninja Gaiden game, that it actually is a pretty cool hack and slash sort of game that a lot of people would enjoy if it hadn't gotten so many negative reviews at launch. Next, we have Yakuza Dead Souls. So this is a spin-off of the Yakuza game, and it's actually pretty different from other Yakuza games. It's another one of the scenarios sort of similar to Yakuza Ninja Gaiden Z, where I haven't actually played any of the mainline ones, but I've seen a lot of gameplay of them. And there's a lot more focus on like gunplay in this game than other Yakuza games, and hordes and stuff. It's pretty much, simply put, it's just like a what if story, I guess, of okay, here's after Yakuza 4 some zombies, and it follows a bunch of different characters. So far as I can tell, it actually does seem like a pretty full-fledged Yakuza game with a lot of side activities and everything. It's pretty fun. It reminds me a lot of Dead Rising 1 with how it plays out, because it has like a zombie kill counter, and it's actually not very hard either, so it's just a fun game to play. I don't remember whether or not people actually liked this game very much, but personally I think it's a lot of fun, and it's one that I think in the future I might try to play through. I don't know if I'll do it on the channel or not, but follows 4 characters, has some more Yakuza, has some zombies, and overall is just a pretty good game. It also makes me wonder if they would ever bring over any of the other spin-offs of Yakuza, like the ones that take place in the 1600s and stuff like that, if they brought over this one, but not those yet. And next is Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. This follows John Marston and some of the other characters from Red Dead Redemption as they sort of make their way through a zombie apocalypse. This one probably is kind of obvious because a lot of people know about it, and Red Dead Redemption was a really popular game. I think it's pretty cool. It has a pretty long story for what was sort of just a standalone add-on. Has some new gameplay mechanics, new weapons and stuff. I believe that there's new characters that weren't in the original Red Dead Redemption, but I didn't play the original Red Dead Redemption. Speaking of that, I believe that this takes place before the original Red Dead Redemption, but after Red Dead Redemption 2, because Red Dead Redemption 2 was a prequel or whatever. Speaking of Red Dead Redemption 2, there's some thought about how Red Dead Redemption 2 might also have an Undead Nightmare add-on in the future, which is something to keep in mind. But yeah, it's pretty cool. You fight zombies in the Old West. There's like other apocalypse type stuff too. There's horses of the apocalypse that are like special horses you can tame. There's side missions about Bigfoot and stuff like that. And it's also one of those ones that's not really too scary if you're not into scary games, but you kind of like the zombie or just overall spooky aspect of it. It's not really going to like actually scare you probably. Then we have Infamous Festival of Blood. This game is based off of Infamous 2, so it runs on the same engine, which also reminds me, I didn't say it, but for Undead Nightmare ran on the same engine as the original Red Dead Redemption. But this game, Infamous Festival of Blood, runs on the same engine and has like same gameplay mechanics as Infamous 2. And this game's a really weird but really cool departure from the normal Infamous series. So the story goes that Cole is wandering around on this Pyre Night thing and goes to help some people. And Pyre Night's like a big Halloween celebration that takes place in New Marais where the game takes place. And he gets bitten by a vampire called Bloody Mary, and the story kind of goes is he has to go and defeat Bloody Mary before sunlight, or else if sunlight comes around, he'll be like enslaved to her forever and stuff. And it's really cool because it's different, but it also added a lot. It added like a flying mechanic. There were a lot of cool mechanics that were added as Cole as a vampire. So there's a flying mechanic. There's like you can bite people and stuff. You can stake vampires. A lot of stuff that's just really different from normal Infamous games. Also, there's not a karma meter, which is pretty interesting. It takes away all of the like karmatic stuff. It sort of makes Cole evil, but not really because he's sort of forced to be because of the whole vampire thing. The really interesting thing that gets me about this one is it's still open world. It still allows you to go around the main island of New Marais from Infamous 2, but with all this spooky Pyre Night theme. And here's another thing. It actually included a full UGC, which is user-generated content creator, which Infamous 2 had. So you can make missions and stuff still in this, which is pretty cool. And you can use the stuff that's only in Festival of Blood to make missions. I'd say that actually this is probably my favorite game on the list, but I'm saving the last one for last because it's the newest one. But yeah, Infamous Festival of Blood is definitely something to check out. You can buy it. It doesn't have a physical copy out so far as I know. I think this is actually the only one on the list that you can't buy physically. You can buy it on the PlayStation Store, or I've heard that it comes physically in that Infamous collection they made after Infamous 2 came out, that came with Infamous 1, Infamous 2, and Infamous Festival of Blood, but I'm not sure. It might just come with a voucher, but definitely a game to check out, especially as time keeps going on and the PS3, might eventually have the PlayStation Store shut down or whatever, and then the opportunity lost to buy it, because it is a cool game. Lastly is Zombie Army Trilogy, which is based off of the Sniper Elite series. I believe Sniper Elite 2 in particular, it uses like a modified version of the engine used for that game or whatever. It plays similar to Sniper Elite 2, more so than like other Sniper Elite games, but it still runs in 1080p and 60 FPS and all that stuff on PS4 and I'm sure Xbox One and PC also. This game series is a little bit weird because the first two games in this trilogy were released separately, but now they all come bundled together as this trilogy, and they kind of came out at the same time as Sniper Elite 2. The first one did. Anyway, so the Zombie Army Trilogy comes technically with 3 games because it comes with the first 2 Sniper Elite Zombie Army games that were released on their own, and then a third game that, so far as I know, only comes in this trilogy. It plays like Sniper Elite, I guess is what you could say. It plays like a horde mode Sniper Elite. There's zombies in it. It has the X-ray cam and everything. There's a lot of sniping still, but it's sort of different because you always have something coming at you. There's not so much stealth in this game as there is in the normal Sniper Elite series. And it's a cool little departure, and so far as I know, it's actually been really successful for the developers because there is a 4th one coming on the way that I believe they announced at this past E3. And along with that, it also has its own spin-off game that was based on this called Strange Brigade. So you had Sniper Elite, and then you had Zombie Army Trilogy come out of that, and then you had Strange Brigade come out of that. So it's pretty cool to see something really different done with this, in that they did it 3 times. And you can buy the games, like I said, you can buy the first 2 on their own, but I'd just suggest getting the trilogy because that's the only version available on console, and like, what's the point in buying them separately when you can just get all of them bundled together? But it's a cool game. It's the newest game, I believe, on this list, And yeah, definitely one that I would say to check out. Also, before the video ends, though, I have a couple of honorable mentions that I'd like to put on here because they weren't actually separate games, but they are still like modes or add-ons in other games, and they're still pretty fun. So first, I'd like to mention one that probably everybody has heard of, but that's Call of Duty Zombies. It started back in Call of Duty World at War. It's been in a bunch of other Call of Duty games since then, including ones that are like outside of the Black Ops World at War series. It's a pretty fun mode. It's wave-based zombie survival. If you don't know, the gameplay in the background is Black Ops 2 because it's one of my favorites and it's just what I happen to have installed at the moment. And it's fun, but I will say there is a story to it, but the story is really convoluted and confusing at this point because they've been doing it for so long, and there's all sorts of stuff with alternate realities and like multiple versions of different characters and stuff, and characters that are like unseen but have major impacts on the story. It's weird. Like gameplay wise, it's a lot of fun, but story wise, it's just to the point where it's really hard to follow. Which also makes me want to add that it might be more fun if you haven't played it before to play some of the older Call of Duty games with zombies, or some of the ones that are outside of the Treyarch zombies, like Infinite Warfare's zombies mode, because the older ones are at the beginning of that story, so the levels aren't so much influenced by it. The newer ones have a lot of like influences from the weird zombie story, so the levels don't always make sense now. But if you play the older ones, the levels make a lot more sense. It's like, here's a theater with zombies that you need to fight in, or here's a moon base, stuff like that. And the Infinite Warfare zombies is separate from Treyarch zombies, so its story makes more sense, and you don't need to know anything to jump into that one. And the second and last honorable mention that I have for this video is Nightmare in North Point from Sleeping Dogs, in Sleeping Dogs, whatever. It's an add-on for Sleeping Dogs. Sleeping Dogs was that game that was sort of like made by the people who made Just Cause, but wasn't Just Cause, but was kind of like Grand Theft Auto, and you played as a detective undercover in Hong Kong, and you fought gangsters and stuff. And it was a pretty cool game on its own, but the add-ons for this game were really cool, especially Nightmare in North Point. This one has you fighting not zombies or vampires or anything like the previous entries, but like these demon things. And I don't remember exactly how the story goes, but it's like all these demons pop up and you gotta shoo them away, sort of thing. It's cool. It's a little bit different because there's a lot of fist-to-fist combat. Fist-to-fist, like hand-to-hand. You guys get what I mean. You like punch demons and stuff, where in the other games there was a lot of shooting and stuff. So it's a little bit different, and it's quite a bit different than the normal Sleeping Dogs story. But if you are interested in sleep, and it comes with the remastered version too, that's out on PlayStation 4 and stuff. So if you buy the remastered version, or even if you buy the older version, definitely would suggest checking out Nightmare in North Point, because it's a really cool add-on and really changes the game up a lot in the way of spooky. So that was my list of 5 spooky spin-off games that are in like normally non-spooky series, and also Call of Duty Zombies and Nightmare in North Point. Hope you guys enjoyed. I don't really have ideas for any other lists, so this probably won't be a super common thing, but I was just playing some of these games and I was like, man, I ought to do a video about these because these are pretty cool. So if you liked my list, make sure to like. If you guys have any other spooky games or add-ons or modes in other games that you'd like to mention, make sure to leave them down in the comments, because like I'm thinking to myself now too, not really mode, but like in Uncharted 1 and 2 there were little spots that were kind of like the game turned into a horror game for a little while, stuff like that. Yeah, but make sure to like and subscribe or dislike or do whatever, just yeah, do something I guess to leave a mark on the video. Anyway, thanks for watching, see you guys in a future video. Bye bye.